Hey guys, okay, so today we were going to do a link sword tutorial and it's going to be foam. Just because I find it to be very light, it's durable, and it was the cheapest I could find and it worked for me. Just because the other way I found that was cheap did not work so well, it was kind of big and bulky, so this is the way I'm going to do it. Alrighty, if you see me looking over here, I have a computer over here, so it's got everything listed out that I need. Alrighty. Okay, so I'm not going to be doing a speed tutorial, so you'll be seeing clips of what I'm doing, but I will not actually be making this sword because I've already made it. So I'll just be showing the techniques and what I did to actually make the sword. Here's another hint. Do not leave the sword next to anything hot, because I ended up melting one side of it, and I was not happy after putting 2.5 hours work into it, just because I take a little bit longer to do because I was figuring out how to do it all at once. So I hope you guys like this, and I hope that you could use it for other tutorials, or not tutorials. I hope you can use it for other swords. So if you like this video, please put a like down below. Just like it down below, or put a comment in the description if you guys think I should work on anything better. Please don't be too hateful, but this is my first video / tutorial ever, as you can tell when you watch this, because there will be only one video on the channel, which is kind of sad, but don't worry, more will be going up. Well, anyway, I hope you like this. I will not be able to put the schematics or blueprints or my measurement I don't remember, but whatever, I will not be able to put how I came up with the design in the description, just because I sketched it all by hand, so you'll just have to sketch it out. It really wasn't that hard to sketch out. I just eyeballed it, and it only took me 10 minutes. So I hope you guys like this, and let's just move right on down into, well, I'll see you guys in a minute and we'll start doing everything we need. So the next part is you want to sketch everything out, every piece of the sword that you'll be using for this. Sorry if I'm a little shaky, I don't have a stand or anything. So when you're doing this, you want to kind of take your measurements. I think mine was like about from the tip of the sword to the edge of the handle, I think it was about like 50 inches long or something like that. So you just want to measure how high you want it to go, and then sketch it all out. Sketch every piece. Like this is like the thing that goes above the handle, below the sword. I forgot what the thing's called, but a blade. But yeah, that's what that is. So you want to draw every piece, and I'll explain what this piece is here later. But okay, so once you get that everything sketched out and that, cut it out of whatever you sketched it in, and then squish it all onto the board. Like I have all this like right here, just all put together. So you want to try to fit as much as you can onto a side, because you are going to need to make double of everything. So I'll make 2 of these, I'll make 2 of these, 2 of these, and 2 of these. So just to make, because you gotta have a front and back. Once you have it all sketched out, you actually want to cut it afterwards, and I found it was helpful whenever I was sketching it out. I took a Sharpie because it made the line darker and I could see it better. I cut it out. I actually used a pair of scissors, just these plain old ones. I think these are fabric cutting scissors, but they worked really well. I did have an X-Acto knife. Not X-Acto knife. I think it's box cutter knife. I'm not really sure. Blade, but I used that, and it left their edges really not smooth. It left them jagged, and then I'd have to go through one way or another to fix it. This is what it looks like pretty much. I could show you an example right here. See how jagged it is? That's with using the box cutter. When I use the scissors, because this is an extra piece I just have laying around, I'll just use this here with one hand because I am left-handed. Alrighty. Just me cutting it. It left it nice, clean, and smooth, and you don't have to worry about trying to sand it down or anything. So that just pretty much cut out one step in doing it. So after you have it all cut out, you will do this next. Oh yeah, and before I forget, I actually got this at a discount store called Ross. This is where I bought this mat. It was only like $9.99. Very cheap. I think Walmart sells it, but I'm not really sure because I was having some trouble finding it, but my Walmart's just a little messy, so it's very cheap. You get 4 of them about this size, so they're pretty big. If any of you guys are asking, and it's just foam mat that like you use it for exercising equipment, kids to play on, anything like that. So that's where I got it, if any of you guys are wondering. Okay, now that you have everything cut out, it should look something like this. Just ignore it. I have this painted already because this was to a different one. So, yeah, this was to my first attempt. Okay, so after you have everything out, I just want to set it out so you can look at it all. And that piece I was talking about, it was... I'll just bring this back in real quick. Oh, wrong one. Okay, so that piece I was talking about was actually a filler. Because when you make a double one, you want to actually measure this out so it will cover like the bottom of the blade right here, this piece. So it will actually kind of fit like this. It will fit in like that. So when you do that, it will cover up a gap that you create. So whenever you have this and you lay it on top like that, kind of like what I have here, you use that piece I used and it will go roughly about right here. So you'll have to make 2 of them. 2 of them. Okay, so you'll make 2 of them, and it will fill in the gap because when you put this piece, oops, sorry, I'm looking through my camera. When you put this piece on top of here, it leaves like about an inch gap or so in here, and that just not very sturdy. But now that I got everything in here, it is really sturdy. I mean, I could still bend it, but it's strong and it's not going to come apart unless I physically try to tear it apart. So anyway. That's what that piece is for. After you have everything cut out, you want to just lay it out so you can look at everything. Make sure you have everything. And once you do, you take your left side. I labeled mine. You can't see it really, but we'll say this is for the left side of the sword. I named this L2. And then I named this part L1 and then this part L3. Just that way I made sure I wasn't missing any pieces. So whenever you have them all laid out, you want to have a wooden rod. And that wooden rod is the support right here. I have a wooden rod right here. It's kind of hard to tell, actually. Did a pretty good job. Alrighty, well, that wooden rod is in here. I'm actually feeling it right now, but anyway. It helps give support to the sword, so that way like you can bang it off things. So watch. Still in perfect shape. So that's what that rod was for. Okay. Once you have it all laid out, you want to, this is an example again. Say you have it all laid out in a straight line. You have all the pieces matched together and that. Before you start gluing, lay the rod down in the middle, so like right here. And you want to take your Sharpie or whatever you're using to mark it. Just outline the rod to make sure that when you go to hollow it out, it's all straight in that. And you want to do that to the other side. But when you do that to the other side, make sure they are both equal so that way you don't have like a line here on the one side and then you got like a line over here on the other side when you flip them over, so that way the rod can't fit in. So it's very important you make sure you have a straight rod, and if it isn't straight, you want to try to make sure the sides line up so that you can actually put it together. So that's what the tricky part is. That took me 2 tries to do, but the second try was the charm. Now that you have the sword all lined up, say I have the wooden rod like right here. This is where it's going to go. When I hollowed mine out, I just took my scissors, cut a little gap right here. So it just left a little gap like that. And I will cut it here. And I will show you what I mean whenever I come back. Okay, so this is what I meant. You will take out that line I created. I just cut up, say this was my outline of my rod. I just cut up, cut the top of it, and then I came back down. And whenever I did that, I hollowed it out in the process. It's kind of a little hard to see, but you can see it a little bit right there. All I did was take the scissors, and I just went like this. And I just cut, and I brought the bottom up to the top. And when I did that, it made a nice line through it. And after I did that, all I did was I took the scissors and I went this way and just kind of wiggle it a little bit. You got to be very careful, because if you're not careful, you will tear a hole through this. That's the careful part. And if you have trouble, you just squeeze them together to break it apart. So, as you can tell, I have it broken apart right here. This is the part that was in it. So, if I put this back in here, it should fit perfectly after see? Fits perfectly. So, that's what you want to do. You just want to hollow this out. After you hollow it out, comes the gluing. But before you glue it, make sure you line up your pieces again. Take the wooden rod, line your pieces up, take the wooden rod, put it inside your groove, and then take the other half, like, say this is the left side. Put the wooden rod and line this all up, put it in. And then you take the right side and you pretty much make a sandwich. Sandwich it over and just make sure everything lines up. Because if it doesn't line up, it's much easier to fix it now than whenever you're halfway through the gluing and then you realize it doesn't fit. So just save a hassle and make sure you line it up first. So, after you have it lined up, the glues I recommend using, this is what I use. I used actually hot glue, just because I ran out of Gorilla Glue. Gorilla Glue is the other one I'd mentioned. If you have that, use that. I tested it on it. It does not melt the foam. But I test it anyway. Just cut off a scrap or something like that and just test it. So whenever I used hot glue, I just glued it as I went. So if the rod was here, I just glued this much, laid the rod on it, and then bent the foam back like this, and just continued up the groove and glued it as I went. So after we have the one side of the rod glued in, I took the other side of the foam, and we'll just take this as an example too. I just laid it over. When I laid it over, I glued like a groove. Say this was the groove. I just lined up the groove, glued a little bit right here, sandwiched it together, and then as I started gluing up again, you would just want to repeat the process and just bend it back, put some glue on, fold it close, and that's all I did. The whole ways up it. So after you have it glued, say this is glued together. Say the rod's in here. After it's glued, the sides won't be glued down together. So you'll just peel back the side and put the glue inside of it. So that's all you do is to glue it together. And after you're done, you can put pressure on it, just make sure it all stays together. So after that is all done, just make sure the sides line up. If they don't line up, you can do a little trimming. So it's not that bad, actually. Now we will go on to the next part, and I will show you this here in a second. Okay guys, after you have this all hollowed out, I will explain it just because I forgot to film this part, so I will do it now. I actually, to make like a side, you can't really see it on here just because I don't have scissors or something big enough, or I just wanted to put like a little detail as it being curved in. But to do that, all I did was, to make it look like that, all I did was take the scissors, hold them at a diagonal on the board, and just cut to like, example. Okay. See, it was just an example. I held the scissors sideways and cut. Just make sure you don't go down through the bottom, so you can keep it as that, like, edge. Where's the edge? Right there. So that's all I did to do that, and it was super easy. I will warn you guys now, don't try doing this like a day or so before, just because my hand actually got tired after doing this for about 5 minutes. Only about 5 minutes of doing this, and my hand was cramping up, so it really hurt. If your hands aren't strong like mine are weak, so I recommend you guys try to do this at least a week or so before you want to use it, just to make sure your hand doesn't hurt, you're not rushing, and it looks actually nicer instead of doing a rush job. That's my recommendation. Okay, now on to how I actually made the sides, because when you glue it together, obviously you will have a gap right here. I had a gap right here. So to cover that up, I actually just used some clay that air dried. So there was no need for heat or anything. It just air dried so you won't end up damaging the sword or anything. And if you accidentally like end up tearing through like I did right here. Wait, no, I didn't tear through right there. I tore through accidentally right here at the end. it actually did a nice patch job, so it's kind of hard to even notice, as you can tell. See? Can't even tell. Alrighty, so the clay I use is actually called Delight. I actually got it from Michael's. I think it was only about $6, which is pretty good because I thought I was going to end up using half because this package isn't very big. It's about as big as my hand almost. I thought I was end up going to using about half. I only ended up about using like this much for the whole entire sword of covering it. Maybe just a little more. So it wasn't that bad, and it's still pretty light. I will end up having a sheath, so I'm not really concerned if it's that heavy because it will probably be back there a lot. So this is the clay I used. It's called Delight. And you could use it for other things, but I used it for my sword. And it was pretty easy. It was, how long did it say? It takes about a day or two to dry, just depending on the thickness. But I started with the thicker parts first, like, where's that one piece? Like, right here. I wasn't lining up because I accidentally cut it a little short. So to fix that, I just made a little square, stuck it in there, and it did a pretty good job. Like, I'm pulling on it right now, and it's not coming out. So I recommend using this stuff. It makes it kind of sturdier, actually, and it's a little bit flexible. As you can see, because look, I'm pushing on it, and it's just bouncing back. Bouncing back. So I recommend using it. It actually makes this a lot better. I'm in love with that product right now. So if I ever have to use it again, that's what I'll use. So that's how I made my sword. And just make sure it's very easy. It's pretty much basic knowledge, but I figured I'd put this out here anyway just because I was kind of stumped on how I was going to make it too. So I just took some different ideas and put it together. But that is how I made the sword. So the only thing right now I have to do is I just need to paint it. So I'm just going to use some spray paint up here because that's what I have. I only have like painted paint for down here, but I'm not really concerned because I'd rather have the blade stand up better than down here. That's what I did to make my whole sword. It wasn't really that complicated. It was actually pretty much straightforward. So if you are confused about anything, it's just use your head. It was very easy and it's pretty good. It comes up to about my waist, so it's actually a pretty nice. I'd say so. Okay guys, I hope you liked my sword tutorial. I know it wasn't that long, but if you guys are confused about anything at all, you could just leave it down in the comments box because I'll be happy to answer anything. I will check back at least once a day, and it'll probably be around 11 just because that's when everything seems to die down in my daily activities routine. So if you guys are confused about anything, to the comments. I will try to answer it the best I can. This sword can be used for, not this sword, what I did to do it can be used to do anything like that. And here's something I forgot to say. The Gorilla Glue. The Gorilla Glue can work. I just caution you, whenever you do use it, don't go too close to the edge with it. Or if you do go close to the edge, don't use a lot because it expands and it will foam. So if you do use Gorilla Glue, make sure you have a bunch of weights nearby or anything for useful. Like I have tons of books over here. So I just use those whenever I made something with it. But anyway, it will, excuse me, hiccups. It will expand, so just make sure you have something heavy laying on top of it to keep it all squished together so that way it won't, like, one side will be really flat and the other side will be popping off, or you could tear it apart. So that's my warning on it. Hope you guys like this. This is my first tutorial, first video, so if you guys think I should improve on anything, just let me know. In the future, I will be using a different camera. I actually am looking at one right now so I could record and hopefully do time-lapse videos for you guys. So I hope you guys like this. And when we go to Techo, I will hopefully make videos or do some videos, take some pictures, show you guys so you guys can see it. I know there isn't that many videos of Techo because it's small in PA, but don't worry. It will work. I cannot wait. It's going to be my first convention, so I hope you guys like this. Tell me if you guys think I should improve on anything like I've already said. I'm pretty sure I already said, but anyway. Thanks for watching, and I hope to see you guys again.